Hi, I'm Cameron Turner. With his compassionate comments following the Trayvon Martin tragedy, President Barack Obama demonstrated once again that he cares deeply for all Americans and that he is committed to bringing us together in the spirit of a truly united States. So how infuriating, how sad, how typical it was that Republican presidential hopefuls Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich tried to twist our president's beautiful and appropriate words following the Trayvon Martin tragedy. You'll recall that the president, pointing out how he identified with and felt compassion for Trayvon Martin's family, pointed out that if he had had a son, that son would look like Trayvon. Well, Newt Gingrich seized upon that and attempted to turn it into something negative. Appearing on conservative talk show host Sean Hannity's radio show, Mr. Gingrich said, "Is the president suggesting that if it had been a white who had been shot, that would be okay because it wouldn't look like him?" Mr. Gingrich, obviously Mr. Obama meant nothing, even remotely approximating that ridiculous misinterpretation that you just gave. Rick Santorum the same day appeared on another radio show, a different show, and said, "What the President of the United States should do is try to bring people together, not use these types of horrible and tragic individual cases to try to drive a wedge in America." Mr. Gingrich and Mr. Santorum both completely missed the point. Or perhaps what they did was that they just deliberately misinterpreted the president's words in order to try to make him look bad and to make themselves look good in the eyes of those white, far-right, angry conservative voters who formed their base. That's pretty much been their tactic throughout this protracted primary season. You'll recall that Rick Santorum attacked black folks when he was asked a question about entitlement reform. That was right before the Iowa primary. And then Mr. Santorum actually called President Obama a snob because the president encourages families to send their kids to college. Now, Newt Gingrich, well, you'll remember how he suggested that low-income African Americans are out of work because they lack a work ethic. And then Mr. Gingrich arrogantly offered to lecture the NAACP on that subject. So, of course, it is ridiculous that either of these gentlemen had the gall, the nerve to open their mouths and accuse somebody else of being racially divisive. It's even more ridiculous that the accusation was directed at President Obama, a man who has been on a mission to unite all of America ever since before he was elected president. In fact, that mission, that commitment to unity, is one of the reasons Mr. Obama was elected president. So Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum, they actually played themselves with this mean-spirited attempt to demonize President Obama over his comments regarding the Trayvon Martin case. You see, most Americans are just not trying to sip the haterade that men like Gingrich and Santorum are trying to ladle out these days. This kind of extreme conservative posturing on the part of Gingrich and Santorum is also the reason why neither of these men has any realistic hope of becoming the Republican Party's nominee for president. Mr. Obama, the President of the United States, said and did the appropriate thing in response to the Trayvon Martin tragedy. Mr. Gingrich and Mr. Santorum simply slung mud on themselves, and that's pretty shameful. I'm Cameron Turner. That's my 2 cents.